everyone, it's Religious Fanboy here again, and today we are talking about some anime recommendations for Christians from the winter, spring, and summer anime release seasons from 2025, as well as giving a list of animes that we are excited about for this coming fall release season. And with me today is our special guest, Mike Edmondson, who is a dear friend and mentor to me, as well as the youth pastor from First Christian Church in Neoga, and is also a big anime fan.
Thanks for having me today. Appreciate you asking me to come back. So I guess I didn't screw it up too bad the first time around. And you also called me. I'm a special guest, so I got a lot. I got a lot to live up to today, I guess. But I'm looking forward to
Well, as far as like reoccurring guests, it's like you can't do much better than like you and like Levi.
it.
So like that's
Well, I'm glad if you're putting me at Levi's level, then I know I've made it. So
yeah. So starting off, we're going to just go chronologically from starting with the winter season. And would you like to like go back and forth? I do one and then you do one.
why not? That
Okay.
sounds great.
My first anime recommendation from this past winter season is the anime I May Be a Guild Receptionist, but I Will Solo Any Boss to Clock Out on Time. This anime is rated 14 plus on Crunchyroll. And a summary of this anime is that the guild receptionist Elena becomes the mysterious executioner and joins the guild the Silver Sword in hopes that she would never have to work overtime. This is one of my favorite animes from this past winter. The main Christian lesson that I saw in this anime, or paralleled in this anime, was the idea of that joy and peace that God calls for us to have is found in the midst of making sacrifices. And the Bible verse that I felt best connects with the messages and themes from this anime is Matthew chapter 16, verse 25, which says, For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And then, do you want to do your
Sure,
next?
sure. Yeah, I caught part. I've caught about half of that anime. It was the ones that kind of slipped through the cracks for me, but I could see why you liked it, and it's one that I might go back and like finish, um, because it was definitely fun, and
Hmm?
I liked that she was like so spunky about not doing work, so it kind of reminded me of youth ministry just a little bit. Um, so my first recommendation from the winter of 2025 is the second season of Apothecary Diaries. I just really enjoyed this one. It is of the it's like drama mystery, and there's a little bit of rom com there too. Um, there are some stuff that is there's an episode or two, or there's a couple of things that you might have to watch out for a little bit, as far as for integrity or whatever, for you know because of some of the adult stuff in it. But it's mostly clean, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. It is about a young lady who is working in the palace of a dynasty. She is in the she is a servant to a concubine, one of many, for this emperor. It's based loosely on Chinese culture and history and tradition and things, but it's technically, not China. But anyway, it's just kind of court intrigue. She is an apothecary, so she's kind of like a doctor, and she has kind of sleuthing abilities. And so, anyway, it's her interacting with her duties and the people that she involves herself with, whether it be the concubines or even at one point, the emperor himself or the emperor's little brother, and she gets into trouble and she solves mysteries and she thwarts, coups and crazy stuff, and in the midst of it, there's some romance in the middle of it. So anyway, it's 2 seasons so far. There'll probably be a third one. I really enjoyed it. I think it's worth a watch. Some things to consider as Christians, some things that I don't have verses, but I do have some like themes that you could use to talk to somebody about Jesus or talk about Bible things based on some of the events or the plot of the story. First off, um, you could talk about the influence of others on us and by us. One of the overall themes in the story is they have a certain amount of time that they work in the palace, and then their time is done. Once they're out of the palace, they're kind of destitute, and so if they can rub elbows with the right people in the palace, they can get jobs outside of their work when they finish. And so the whole idea is they're trying to influence the people around them to get in their good graces, so that way they'll have a job to go work for somebody later on, and they'll have a future, so to speak. And so you could be talking about the idea of like how much of an influence the people around you are on you as a person, or how much your influence affects other people, the things you say and do. And so I think that was something that you could use a tie-in. The other thing is there's a time to stand for what's right, even when it costs us. And there's some moments in the story where she puts herself kind of out there, or um, I know in the second, I don't want to ruin the plot, but there's a moment where which someone has to make a decision that's going to change their life thoroughly, and they choose to make this decision in order to help the people around them. And so, there are times in which as Christians we're going to have to make decisions, and they may affect our lives in either positive or negative ways, and it's going to be for the benefit of those around us. And so, those are some things you could talk about. Leapfrog off of some of the events in that as an open door for the gospel or for Christian themes or ideas. So that's my first recommendation.
My second recommendation from this past winter release season is the anime Headhunted to Another World, from Salaryman to the Big Four. This anime is also rated 14 plus on Crunchyroll. A brief summary of this anime is that the salaryman Uchimura is summoned to another world to become the Demon King's newest general. The main lesson that I saw paralleled in this anime is that even though God has given us different gifts and callings, all of them are equal because all of them are necessary for the church to be what God has called the church to be. The Bible verse for this anime is 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verses 4 and 5. Now there are a variety of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And what is your...
Oh, okay. By the way, I saw that one as well. I got about halfway through it again. I don't know about you, Quentin, but I know that when I'm watching anime, a lot of times in the early season, I'll watch a bunch of them, and then normally, like as time progresses, I'll watch a couple, and like the first episode or two, and then I'll go like, yeah, maybe not for me, or like I'll see something and I'm like, that's kind of troublesome, or like
Yeah.
that's inappropriate. I don't know if I want to watch anymore. and then I'll narrow down my focus. And usually about halfway through the season, I do the same thing again, where I'm just like, okay, like I'm going to abandon a few more, and I'm just going to focus on these last three or four that I'm really into. And so I know for this one, I was enjoying it, and then about halfway through, I was one of those ones that I went, maybe I'll catch back up on that one later. So you'll have to tell me
Mm.
after we get done because I don't ruin it for the listeners. But I remember that like there was a little budding romance I think between like the dragon lady and him. Like she was into him and he was kind of oblivious. You have
Yeah.
to tell me how that turns out. So, but anyway, my recommendation, my second one is not a second season. So this is an original anime called Zenshu. Um, and I remember this because like I remember the opening theme is like Zenshu, anyway, but
Yeah.
they just say that like over and over and it's like gets stuck in your head. But anyway, you also have that me saying that on forever now, which will be embarrassing. But it's an action fantasy. There's a little romance in it as well, but it's mostly action and fantasy. It is about a young lady who, at a very young age, becomes very successful in the world of anime. She makes like an anime that is a smash hit. If I remember right, I think it was like a Gundam type of anime or something.
Mm.
And so the follow up, they offer her to do like a rom com sort of thing, and she accepts it. But the problem is like she's kind of like an ice queen type of character. She doesn't have any sort of romantic history. She has no real romantic feelings for anyone. She's pretty like just robotic in her like she's not emotional or anything like that. And so anyway, she is like hitting the wall and can't figure out what to do. And one day she eats like an old bento, an old like boxed lunch in Japan, and she gets food poisoning and essentially like almost dies. She goes into a coma, I believe.
Mm.
I'm I, I'm a little iffy on those details. I don't know if she's actually transported to the world or if she's just like in a coma mentally in another world. But anyway, she goes to the world of like her favorite childhood like anime. It's a fantasy. And it's like a tragic fantasy. It's a fantasy where like everybody dies and the world ends. And so the plot of this anime is that she as the author has the ability to like draw things into existence and she is trying to change the story of her favorite childhood anime to have a happy ending. And so she's interacting with her childhood characters, and they're going against adversity and adversity and adversity, including like the original author at one point shows up and it's all like, "You can't change my story." Anyway, it's a really good anime. I really enjoyed it. It was very creative. It had a satisfying ending. It was fairly clean for the most
Mm.
part. It also wasn't like gory or anything. So I think just about anyone could read it
Mm.
or watch it. I mean, I think parents double check because the other thing is sometimes your memories are like I don't remember anything, and then someone goes, "What about that one time thing?" And you're like, "Oh yeah." So I don't remember anything bad in it, but it seemed like a pretty wholesome anime to me, as
That
far as that stuff is concerned. So
Yeah, I also enjoyed that anime, and you bringing up what you just said reminded me of when I watched. I don't know if you watched Keno's Journey: The Beautiful World. It was an older anime,
okay, I don't know if I've seen it.
but the Anime Devotion Campus Ministry was covering it, so I was like trying to go back and cover it at the same time, and I was like trying to get to level like watch episode 12, and I'm like, oh, I don't remember really anything about episode 12. And then I started watching it, and then I was like, oh, it's the murder sheep
uh,
episode.
okay, yeah, it's the one everybody skips, right? Or
It's like the episode 11, the country of adults, is like so heavy that you like almost like phase out what happens at the last episode of
okay.
the season. And then it's like, oh,
Well, the Christian themes that you could talk to, you could jumping point for evangelism or for personal devotion. Is this the main character struggles to understand love? Um, Eventually, things change for her, and so there's the theme of being patient while we wait for answers or for understanding. Is there that's a very common thing in our lives where there are things going on that are just kind of outside of us, or at least outside of our level of understanding, even at the moment. And so there are times in which we just have to kind of wait and struggle to understand about things. And so I think that's one thing that you could talk about or jump off about it. And the other thing is this. they discuss this idea of fate, that things are like fated to happen, like you can't change things. You know, the original author shows up and is all like, it doesn't matter how hard you struggle, like it's still going to come to, like bad thing, like it's still going to happen, sort of thing. And so you can talk about the idea of, are things set in stone? You know, can you change the things in your life or the world? You know, like, are you able to? Do you have the power or ability? Um, and the answer that the show comes to eventually is a yes, that you can. And I think talking about how God can change us and our circumstances in similar ways if we allow it. You know, this idea that like we don't have to stay the way we are. You know, because of Jesus, change is a possibility in our lives now, and in our world. And so I think those are things that you could talk about. You know, after watching this or while you watch this.
Mm. Now we are moving on to the spring 2025 release season. And my first recommendation from this season isn't a sequel, but it is a spin off to another popular anime, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. The brief summary of this anime is that Koichi becomes a vigilante and teams up with a J-pop idol named Popstep and another vigilante named Knuckle Duster in order to fight criminals and stop the use of the drug trigger. The lesson from that I saw paralleled in this anime is that God is pleased by the sacrifices we make in order to do good and to help others. Our Bible verse for this recommendation is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 16. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. The main illustration that I feel best exemplifies this lesson in the anime, and this is a spoiler for later on in the series, but Koichi
Sorry, Siri thought you were talking to her.
sacrificed his chance to become a licensed hero and his All Might jacket in order to save Pop Step from drowning when she was a kid. And I highly recommend this anime. I've been a big fan of My Hero Academia, and this spin-off definitely did not disappoint.
Yeah, this is one I'm gonna have to like to revisit. I guess I would say. Um, Most sequels I like to binge, so I'll wait for them to get completely done. And I watched like an episode or two of this, and I thought I'll just binge it later, and I've never gotten back to it. So I need to grab it because it looked really good, and it sounds from what you say to be really really good as well. So I got one here that'll be fun because we talked about this at lunch today, and I'm going to quote you, and I think you're going to enjoy that. My recommendation, my first one for spring, is From Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. It was a Amazon Prime anime that season. It's an action adventure fantasy. It's non-isekai, which is also kind of great because they're kind of few and far between. They're just like legit fantasy, where it's not like somebody's reincarnated or somebody has been thrown to this new world or it's a online game even. I mean, that's more fantasy still, but like this is legit a fantasy world, which is kind of refreshing from time to time to get. So there are some like etchy or some like adult like dressed women in this. So that's one thing that I would caution the guys about is that there's a female character or two that run around and they're a little buxom and they're a little in your face, so to speak. But in all fairness, if I remember right, they're not in every episode, and it's not really the purpose of the anime, in my opinion. It didn't seem like this was the type that is just trying to grab a bunch of people to come watch it because it's got, scantily clad ladies in it. I didn't really feel like that was the case with this, which is why I'm recommending it. So, just watch your eyes, boys. Other than that, I think it'll be good for the most part. So, it is about a middle-aged, right? Probably in his 40s, I would
Yeah.
assume, sword master who has grown up in kind of the sticks, and over the span of his life has grown up under his dad in this dojo, essentially teaching like adventurers and people how to like sword play. So, and it is at this point where some of his former students come and go, hey, like, you are too good to be just out here in the sticks, like, we want you to come and to teach sword at like the Imperial Sword Academy or whatever. I don't know. That's And so he is encouraged by his dad to do so. Part of that is because dad wants grandkids, and he's like middle aged and is apparently oblivious to ladies. So anyway, he goes to the capital and has a couple different ventures there. Thwarting some assassination attempts and some evil people and a corrupt church. And he adopts a daughter essentially, or at least a ward, a girl that's that is an orphan sort of thing, and takes care of her and gives her a home. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I found it a little heartwarming. I thought it, even though that some of them were a little scantily clad, was a pretty wholesome anime, in the sense that people weren't throwing themselves at each other, sort of thing. It wasn't like someone was trying to seduce someone all the time or anything. It was a bunch of girls had a crush on this dude. I know this is where I'm quoting you. You said they all have dad issues, all right? Because they were all like young ladies, and he was like a dad aged guy for them. And I agree, they all had dad issues, all right? But to be honest with you, who doesn't have dad issues? We all do. Uh, I don't like middle-aged men, but still, we all have dad issues. So anyway, here's why I really like this one, and I think some of the things that we could talk about as Christians after watching this. By the way, the action was really good in this as well. I thought they animated the sword fights and stuff really
Yeah.
well. So, um, humbleness is what is one of the things that I really took away from this, because the sword master was a very humble man. He was easily just just poning people like in sword fights. Like some of the captain of the guard or whatever, and he's just all like, "Yeah, you got to tighten that up because you're a little sloppy there or something." He didn't really have a super close fight with just about anybody. And the ones that he did, he still came out like fairly easily overcame them. And so he was a humble guy though. Like he seemed like he was just considered himself to be a normal person. Like, I'm just a normal swordsman sort of thing. He was very humble. He allowed his character and talent to speak for him. And so, instead of being very prideful or self-promoting, he was just all like, he just is like, hey, I'm just a swordsman. I'm just a humble guy trying to teach people how to do the sword. And while he was doing these amazing things, that everyone was going like, you're not just normal, dude. So um, the idea of humbleness is scripturally is mirrored here with the humbling and being exalted, so to speak. The idea of living a humble life and those around you will exalt you, sort of thing, or like the idea of being humble before Lord and God will exalt you, so to speak. And so he was a humble man for most of his for half his life, and then he is exalted to these places of honor, by the people around him because they recognize how great he is, not because he had to show off or to prove himself. It was recognized. So the second thing is this humbleness stands out. It stands out in the anime because he's got nothing to prove and he doesn't really have an agenda, and everyone is just kind of shocked by that. And it stands out in our culture too, um, because he isn't trying to prove anything and he recognizes his own flaws. And so I think when we do the same, when we don't try to prove things and we recognize our issues or flaws, it's very counterculture. It stands out. People notice it. And so I think that's something that we could talk about with this anime. So anyway, sorry, I know that was a lot. So,
No, that was great. I think I only managed to get 3 episodes in. It was just one of the animes where I'm not on Prime that much, so I
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
just forgot.
yeah. That was the only one I was watching on Prime. So I understand. I had to log in specifically. Like, is it up yet? Is it up yet? So I get it.
My next anime recommendation is another superhero anime, To Be Hero X. A brief summary of this anime is the world of To Be Hero X is a world where people gain superpowers and become heroes based on how much people trust them. The lesson that I saw paralleled in this anime is that when we do good things with the intention of drawing attention to ourselves, our actions become corrupted and are no longer pleasing to God. The Bible verses for this anime is Matthew chapter 6 verses 1 through 4. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And the illustration, this is from actually one of the last episodes in the season. Is that Nice's desire to become a hero led to him becoming enslaved and manipulated by his hero agency, and that relationship caused him to become extremely depressed. And the other main illustration that I noticed from the anime is the words of its theme song, where it talked about being a hero, and within the choruses, it talked about and gave the idea that in this world of popularity, the song raises the question of basically why isn't it enough, and that the idea that it should be enough to be a hero and do what's right regardless of who's paying attention. And this anime does cover heavy topics, but I do highly recommend it.
Look at Quentin talking about the soundtracks. So I never even thought about the evangelistic nature of the soundtracks. So although I know that like that's not super uncommon for like I know there's a whole anime like genre or subculture that are into like openings and closings and either the video or the audio about them. So, but not necessarily my thing. Although there are a couple that like are a little super catchy, and like I'll watch the whole. I won't skip the intro because I'm all like, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
I even have a couple on my phone. Every once in a while, I'll pop that out for a youth group kid, and they're like, "What are we listening to?" And I'm all like,
Yeah. I believe the name of the opening song to Be Hero X is Inertia, and it's kind of become one of my workout songs.
"All right." It sound inertia would be very workout.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get you moving and can't get you to stop, huh? All right.
Also, bit of foreshadowing. The Christian lessons that are paralleled in lyrics of a theme song will also play a role in one of my recommendations for the summer release season.
All right. All right.
What's your next one?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one. So this one might actually be more for the ladies. I don't know, or the guys that are just into sappy like romantic type of things. So this one is Two Perfect Saint tossed aside by the fiance and sold to another kingdom, which is also a trope for having an overly long title for an anime. But essentially, this was a fantasy romance genre It is about two sisters, one who is betrothed to the prince of a kingdom. She's been trained to be the saint of the kingdom, so she is like a magician type of thing, or a priestess, really. And she cleanses the nation of different like diseases and like demons and that sort of thing that are like invading and so she's a protector, so to speak, of the nation. And so she is betrothed to this prince who's a complete and total jerk, who doesn't like her and thinks she's plain and boring, even though she is like legit the greatest saint of all time almost, and like a super duper hard worker, has a great heart, all that good stuff. So her little sister, who's far more attractive apparently, and is like real bubbly and outgoing and all that, he has the hots for. So he dumps her and literally sells her to the kingdom next door, whose saint has died, and just kicks her out. Her parents do the same, just treat her like garbage and kick her out, and she goes off to the neighbor or to the country next door. And the anime, that's essentially like the first episode, because the rest of the anime is about her like kind of getting used to life back in her old place, trying to like reconnect with her family in her former kingdom, and to try to thwart some overall big baddie who's trying to take over the world. So and then the whole time she's falling in love with her soon to be husband. So um, anyway, I enjoyed it. It's wholesome. There, if I remember right, there's really no fan service in it or edgy stuff in it, really. Um, there might be a little bit of like, if you had little kids, they might get scared with some of the imagery in it or something, because some of the demons or creatures or whatever kind of. But it's not a MA or anything like that. It's pretty tame. So here's some of the things that I thought that you could talk about. For one, the protagonist is a perfectionist and is externally talented. Like she is kind of perfect and perfection, so to speak. She's a little cold, but she is kind of has everything going for her. She's underappreciated and unwanted even by those around her. And so this can help start a conversation about the idea of trying to justify ourselves with God and our actions. This idea of like trying to make ourselves perfect so that we be accepted by both God and other people. Um, because we're never going to be good enough. And the other great thing is that God is today wanting a relationship with us now when we clean ourselves up or get everything right. And so, um, he's in love with us and he wants us today, not the person that we might become in the future. And I think that that's something that you could talk about, because this protagonist is trying to do all this to gain the love and appreciation and respect of others. And up to the point at the beginning of the anime, no one has really responded to that. So, and I think a lot of us in our lives are in the same boat. So, the other thing is this: when people are supposed to be there and take care or fail to do so, it isn't over. And so this young lady has done everything right, and the people in her lives, her parents, her soon to be husband, the country she's lived in, they all fail her. And I think in life, we can find that there are people who are supposed to be there for us who fail us. Whether it be, a sibling, a parent, or whatever. And, it doesn't mean that it's over, because God can provide people to fill in those gaps, whether it be spiritual, family, people that are going to step into those roles who aren't necessarily traditionally those people, but maybe it's, a spiritual grandparent or brother, sister. There's also always two sides to the story. So we find out some of the motivation behind things. We find out there are some people in this young lady's life in this anime who she did not have any sort of relationship with, who she finds that she has a very close connection with, and this person desires a relationship and she never knew it. And so there are also moments in our lives where there are people maybe that we have considered to not be an open door, who might be if we just have dialogue and conversation, or if the time is right, if things kind of change, situations change. And so anyway, I think that's a good reminder, because a lot of times we get real bogged down because some of our interpersonal relationships are not what they should be or what we want them to
Mm-hmm.
be. And if we just kind of hold on, God can provide what we need, or some of those circumstances can just change. The people that we really want to be in our lives may be better if they're not. So anyway, opens up some ideas and some dialogues about some really good stuff. So,
I, so the last thing you said I find extremely poignant. where a lot of the ministry stuff that I do, like this ministry stuff, it's purely for evangelism, and something that I kind of had to wrestle with is accepting and trusting in God that all this is meant to do is plant seeds, and knowledge that even though I might not see fruit come from the seeds that God's called me to plant, that I can trust that God has put other Christians in their life that will help cultivate the growth of that seed.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So now I'm gonna move down to our recommendations for the summer of 2025 release season. And my first recommendation is, I think it's the second isekai that we've talked about today. And that's The Water Magician, which is rated 16 plus. As far as disclaimers go, I am still about halfway through the show. So I don't know exactly what earns the 16 plus rating outside of.
I'm current, so I can tell you a little bit if you want to
Okay,
hear it.
yeah, for sure.
Episode 11 just came out this week out of 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I think it's 13. And I know this last episode there was like a big fight, and there was a bunch of people getting like cut down and stuff. So there was some like blood. It wasn't like gory by any stretch, but there was some like people getting blown up and like cut up, and I think that may be what it is, because up until that point, I haven't seen anything like, not fan servicey, not, there's no sex stuff. There's not anything really scary that much in it. I mean, there's a little bit, but um, there's like some demon lords in that one episode. I don't know if you've seen that one. There's like they get transported. Never mind. Maybe I don't want to run it. I'm sorry, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, there's some things that could be a little scary for a younger person, but like, I would feel confident that you could be okay with recommending this, unless the last two episodes end up being just insane. So, but let's hope it doesn't take that jive. Uh-oh, what happened? We just got to the adult end of the swimming pool. What happened? So anyway.
A brief summary of this anime is the character Ryo is reincarnated into another world where magic exists. And he initially desires to just have a calm and peaceful life. But his fascination with his ability to use water magic leads to him becoming an adventurer and being challenged in relationships with other people, as well as being met with obstacles to overcome. The lesson that is paralleled in this anime is that the joy and peace that God desires to give to us does not come from experiencing a calm and easy life, but from the growth that comes from overcoming life's obstacles. The Bible verse for this anime is John chapter 16, verse 33. I have said these things to you, that you may have peace in the world. Oh. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world. I highly recommend this anime. I look forward to watching more of it, and I think that's it for this recommendation. So here's Mike with his second to last recommendation.
Yeah. By the way, that's one that we talked about at lunch as well. I almost had this on my list. There was I just I we talked about this a little earlier, and just wish there was a little bit more agency in it. It's kind of like him just kind of floating to like one situation to another. But I think overall it's been really good. I like the world building. I like the magic in it. The action's been good. The characters are good. Um, it's a really decent anime. So, uh, like I said, I'm current, so I've watched it every week when they come out. So I'm obviously a fan of it. So, here's the one I'm gonna get from this season that's currently like wrapping up as we speak. So. Here's a fun one I'm gonna give you just because I had to use a VPN to watch this one because it is a Netflix anime and it is not being released as it is being released in Japan. So they just released in like early September the first episode.
Ooh.
And so they're releasing it weekly, but it's like 10 weeks behind the Japanese version. So I watched it when it first came out, the first episode or two, and then I went, okay, I don't have patience for this. So I just turned the VPN on and acted like I was in Japan, and I've been watching them all with English subtitles on Netflix. So the one I'm recommending is the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. It is a drama romance. It's like a teen drama, sort of thing. It's pretty wholesome as far as rom coms go. So not everybody's trying to sleep with everybody, and everyone's fully clothed. So um, if you're looking for a clean teen romance, like it's pretty good. You don't really have to worry about that side of things with this one. So um, essentially, this is a story about people from two different worlds, so to speak. You have a guy who has traditionally been an outcast because of the way he looks. He's always been, from what I gather, big for his age, and he is a guy that everyone assumes is like a delinquent or a tough guy or like a really mean guy. He looks kind of intimidating from the outside, and so nobody messes with him. They'll tiptoe around him, and no one has wanted to be his friends his whole life because they're afraid of him. And so he's been really a loner and just all on his own. The reality is he's like a super nice dude and just wants to be part of the crew. So and then there's this young lady who is going to a very prestigious school, and she is extremely intelligent and is tiny, little tiny thing. And it has not been revealed yet in what I've watched what has brought them together, so to speak, because like she kind of seeks him out pretty early on in the anime, and why that is, I'm not real sure. It sounds like there's some sort of backstory they're going to reveal like very late in the season. Because I think I'm 10 episodes into 13 episodes. But anyway, the idea is these two kids start kind of liking each other. But the problem is he goes to the delinquent school, and next door is like the real exciting, prissy, prep school, and they don't mix, and they kind of hate each other. There's this rivalry. The boys hate the girls. The girls like don't give the boys any time. Think they're all delinquents and like evil, so to speak. And so they don't mix. And there's even the fear that like the faculty would shut it down, like that the girls would get in trouble at school if they got found out that they were seeing or spending any time with the boys next door. So there's this real big divide that is set up from the very start, and it's part of the tension of these two people who kind of like each other. So anyway, that is an overly specific description. I'm sorry, but to get into the themes, I think that would be really good to talk about is the main couple hail from essentially rival schools. They also have very divergent lives and characteristics. They're very different people. You could talk about diversity in God's creation and people, the idea that we all are very different, that we have been made different, and that's okay. That some of us have different roles and purposes, and not only in our the way we're made, but also in the church. Not everybody can be certain things or certain ways because it's just not the way that we function. So, and it's not what we're best at. So, you could talk about the value of people is not in their qualities or their accomplishments, but in the value that God places in them. So there's a lot of this idea that like the boy main character doesn't feel like he has any worth and that he is not good enough. And the young lady is kind of going like, I like you just the way you are, but he won't listen. And so I know a lot of times we take our personal value from our accomplishments, from our um, our characteristics, maybe the praise of others. And the reality is that God values us just the way we are, and we need to be reminded of that. So the second thing is this rivalry plays a big part of the story. They are like kind of all they're like sneaking around a lot, trying not to get caught, um, spending time together or knowing each other. Um, the few times at the beginning when they don't really know each other very well, there's like fights between friends of each other's because they're all like, "Oh, that's that dirty girl from that school. Oh, those are those dirty dumb boys from that school." So they're very conscious of each other's their reputations and circumstances. Um, and the world that they live in is a very divided place. And so I think it would be a really good place to remind people that the church is not to be that way. The church is always supposed to be a place that is open to everybody. That there's not like a who's who that can attend, or that someone isn't good enough to come, or that sort of thing, or that the good people are all like, well, all these people are just cramping our style. We're getting out of here, because they're just really, stinking up the place, sort of thing. The reality is the division shouldn't exist for Christians. If we love Jesus, there shouldn't be a separation between the who's who and the have-nots and have the people that have things. We are to be united in Christ, and so I think that would be something to be talking about because there's that big kind of rivalry and division between those people in that anime. So.
Um, so the my last recommendation for today is Kaiju number 8, season 2. This anime is rated 14 plus on Crunchyroll. To give a brief summary of the season, Kafka and the rest of the Defense Corps are forced to become stronger to defeat Kaiju number 9 after the death of Iso Ishimori. The lesson that is paralleled in this anime is that godly grief brings us to repentance, but beyond our repentance, shame will only bring us more grief and destruction. The Bible verse for this anime is 2 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 10. For godly grief produces a repentance that leads to salvation without regret, whereas worldly grief produces death. And the main illustrations from this anime is how Kafka was unable to transform into his kaiju form and fight kaiju number 9 because he was still living in fear of losing control over the kaiju's influence. After his fight last season with General Iso Ishimori. And we also see the idea of the importance of getting past our repentance and shame paralleled in the opening to the opening song from this season, where we see different kaijus form, and the words in the song during the sequence is saying that you cannot run from yourself. And this is similar to life, where when we feel regret and shame of past sins that we've repented from, they are no longer helping us grow closer to God, but they are causing us to stagnate and even decline, because even though God has forgiven us and paid the price on the cross for those sins, we might still be trapped in our own feelings of anger and resentment towards ourselves because of the mistakes we have made. And,
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to let those things go.
you know,
Yeah. My last recommendation of this current season is The Secrets of the Silent Witch. It is a fantasy drama. Um, it's not an isekai, which another again is one of those like, woo, it's kind of fun. Uh, it is an anime that is about a young lady who has a she has a very tragic upbringing, and people have really hurt her and abandoned her. She's had friends that she's relied on who have kind of turned their back on her and that sort of thing. And so, because of that, she has a lot of social anxiety. She's very shy, probably struggles with some depression. And so she has, in spite of this, become a one of the like top, like I forget what it is. It's like 8 or 10 like kind of archmages or whatever of the country. Or like she goes out and I think the first episode she destroys all these like dragons, and so she's just really OP. And she's the one who has, because of her social anxiety, she didn't like chanting magic in front of others because she was scared to. So she pioneered and invented the idea of silent casting. So she doesn't use any sort of like words to cast spells. And so she kind of like engineered that all on her own. And so she is incredibly like talented and has even achieved some really big things, but can't deal with people or social situations. And so the way that the season starts is that they introduce her in that way, and then she has to go undercover into an academy and be the bodyguard of the royal prince. And so she has to be thrown into this very social place that she did not enjoy at all the first time around, and be a like a bodyguard. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like getting a second chance to do things that she didn't do right the first time. It's a fish out of water a little bit, so there's some fun moments, there's some heartwarming moments, there's some twists in this one. I really kind of appreciated that a little bit. Is some of these are a little formulaic in the way that they kind of progress. You're like, oh, I could tell that's the bad person, you know, or that might be the bad guy. There's, like mid-season, there's like a big like, oh, I did not see that coming at all. Like there's a couple of like twists in some of the people who are doing things that are bad or get caught trying to hurt people, like the prince or whatever. So anyway, it is a touching, heartwarming thing to see her kind of come out of her shell and throughout the season, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. So the things it reminds me of are this: the main protagonist must address her social anxiety or shyness, even possibly depression. These issues are like really prevalent in our culture and also in the church. And so she is uh, kind of thrust into things against her will, but she plods along and improves little by little. Like she just kind of makes the best of things. And we have to do the same thing in our lives to address some of that stuff too, which is just make like a step forward. Every day, try a little bit, like put yourself out there just a little bit. Um, and that goes not only for like depression, anxiety things, but it also goes for our walk with Christ. There are days where we just have to kind of like just plod along, like just keep moving. And so I appreciate that. And I thought that would be something you could definitely jump off. The other thing is this: the girl in the story focuses on this is undeniably like successful and respected as her like status as like one of the eight sages or whatever it is. I don't remember what the term is, but she's very like prestigious in her world, and everyone looks up to her and wants to be her, so to speak. But that said, she isn't happy in her life at all, and with her circumstances or her personal life. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that things aren't always as greener on the other side of the fence as we think they are. I know that that was a big thing in my life for a long time where I wanted to be somebody else or I wanted someone else's life or circumstances or situation. And I just felt like how much better would have been to be one of them or like them or that sort of thing. And it just shows us that like misery is one of those things that we all have to struggle with from time to time. Even when it seems like it comes really easy to other people, doesn't mean that their life is wonderful. And so many would covet her life, and she would most likely covet theirs. And that's one of those things to remember is that just because someone is things you're not or things you wish you were doesn't mean that like everything's easy for them or that if you had those things that everything would be better because that's not always true. In fact, the reality is this: we all struggle to remember that our real satisfaction and contentment comes from Jesus. So, um, yeah,
Nice. I've thought about checking the anime. I will have to do that sometime. So now we are moving down to our and concluding with our list of anticipated anime for the fall 2025 release season. And since I started with the devotionals,
yeah,
the
sure, sure,
recommendations,
sure,
would
sure.
you like to?
Well, I'll mention a couple of things. I think the easiest thing is this. I think we're all looking forward to the sequels that are coming out. I think that every season when there's like sequels, we all go, "Ooh, I get to continue my story that I really loved,
Yeah.
from a year ago." And so I know there's a couple that I'm looking forward to as far as sequels are concerned. One Punch Man season 3. I love me some One Punch Man. I'm always ready for more of it. My Hero Academia final season. Of course, I want to see how that ends. And so I'm excited for it. Another one that I watched way back when it came out, that I'm kind of looking forward to because I didn't think it was bad, was Campfire Cooking in Another World.
Hmm.
Is an isekai sort of thing. A guy has the ability to like use Amazon, essentially Japanese Amazon, to like uh, to get food, and then he cooks for like his friends and his followers and things, and he's running around kind of an anime like adventure world, cooking for everybody, or selling things he's getting off Amazon to this fantasy world, and they're like, "Oh, this stuff's really crazy." So anyway, there's been a couple that are kind of like it. I think this is one of the ones that kind of inspired that sort of arc of anime. So anyway, it's coming out, and I enjoyed the first season, so I wouldn't mind seeing the second one. So those are the sequels I'm looking forward to. I've got some other ones, but maybe we can trade.
Nice. The main sequels I'm excited for. I still don't think I've finished season 2 of Spy X Family or watched the most recent movie, but knowing that season 3 is coming out, that's exciting. Gonna definitely need to catch up on that one. And then the other sequel that I have on my list, and probably the anime I'm most excited for in this upcoming season, is the final season of My Hero Academia. And have loved that anime a lot. Been a big fan. Have gotten a chance to write and preach several sermons on past seasons. So I'm greatly excited for that one. And then, would you like to bring up
Sure.
the new ones that you're
Yeah,
excited
I've
about?
I've got two or three that I like watched the trailer for, and I thought like, oh, that could be fun. Again, a disclaimer: I haven't seen any of these, so uh, I might watch one episode and find out that this is the most graphic, horrible thing in the world, and I'm like, uh-oh. So please don't get upset if we're saying one that we kind of want to watch, and then we find out it's filthy or something because we're going
Yeah,
by like Japanese trailers and we're getting a very small snapshot and maybe a little
yeah.
summary of some of the events. So I want to say that beforehand. Um, the one that I was telling you about at lunch is called May I ask for one more thing. It's kind of a hodgepodge of genres. It's got like a whole bunch of stuff in it, but essentially it's kind of like what I talked about with in that recommendation from Spring, I think, the one about the girl who gets like rejected by her fiance. and then gets like sold off to the nation next door. Well, in this case, essentially, she goes, "Hey, can I ask for one more thing before I accept your, like betrothal?" And then she puts on like knuckle gloves and starts just beating up all the nobles and royals and things. And so I think the idea is that she is, since this has been broken off and her life's been kind of ruined, she's just decided to essentially to ruin everybody's lives, physically, and maybe even in revenge. Not the most Christian of themes, but it seems like it could be a lot of fun to watch, and you never know. Like maybe there'll be redemption, or maybe she'll realize that's not the way that life should be lived. I couldn't tell you, but I saw it. It looked kind of fun. The animation looked good. It looked like it could be a fun anime to watch. So that would be one that I'm kind of looking forward to giving a couple episodes and seeing where it goes.
The three new animes that I'm excited about, I somehow forgot to put that one on my list, but I'm extremely excited for that one too. The other three are a mangaka's weirdly wonderful workplace. Just the title sounds amusing the way it's worded, but I feel like that could be have some potential for good lessons paralleled in there, where with new seasons of our lives it tends to take us, even if it's positive, change is hard, so it takes us some time to kind of cope with the changes and adjust. So I think this is an anime that will likely explore that, so I'm excited about that. And then the other two animes I'm really excited about is Let's Play, which is about a video game developer and her response to a terrible review to one of her first games. And I feel like that, along with the the anime I mentioned before, and the third one that I will mention, I feel like it will be ripe with some strong lessons and themes that I look forward to exploring. And then the third and final anime I have on the list, well, the third new one, is SIVIS, The Sound of Heroes, which looks like a anime about a boy band that they're also superheroes. And because of how much I enjoyed To Be Hero X, I enjoy anime and Japanese culture's approach to superhero content. And I look forward to exploring same concepts, but hopefully with a different take, possibly a lighter take, and see where that show goes. So,
Um, the other two I got are called Yanakun's Ordinary Days. It is an anime. It's like a rom com about two students. I believe that the female, the lady, the girl protagonist, is like really shy and has a crush on a boy, and the boy she has a crush on apparently is the most accident prone man known to the world. And from what I could tell from the, it looks like it's gonna be really cute. It's gonna be this nice little romance. I assume that his injuries are going to keep like them from like connecting over time. It doesn't look like cutesy like injuries though. That's one thing that I noticed about this that I was like, it's kind of hardcore. So the guys are in like eye patches and stuff. Like, it's not like he falls downstairs and then like the next day you see him with like a band-aid on his and he's all like, oh man, you're always getting hurt. Like he had casts and stuff on. Like he legit hurts himself and like it shows. And I think that they're going to talk. I think that's going to show in like how he's able to interact with people, and so it might be kind of tragically funny, just so to speak, that he's hurting himself, but like you get to see him like suffering, sort of thing. But anyway, I get the impression he's going to have some redemption. and it looks like it'll be kind of a cute. It also looks pretty wholesome as far as in the animation. You can kind of tell those that are like trying to get an audience of weirdos and those that are just trying to tell a story. And it seems like it's a tell the story type of anime. The last one I have is my status as assassin obviously exceeds the heroes. So it is a isekai, I believe, about a guy that is isekai'd in and becomes an assassin. And he's supposed to be kind of like the background guy, but he ends up being like more OP than the hero. And so I think he's investing himself in trying to like save the world so he can get home, so to speak. And I think the hero's a attractive young lady, so I think there's also some romance there. What really stood out to me, because this sounds like just a typical isekai, is that the animation style was, for one, like beautiful, and the second thing is it was kind of dark and gritty looking. I was going to tell you that I almost recommend it. Clevitas is one of mine. This because it reminded me of like old school like '90s anime. It was real dark, gritty, adult themes. And I don't mean like adult and like sex content. Although there was a lot of that in the '90s, but I just mean like adult and like they're talking about things that are like heavy,
Yeah.
and the consequences of those heavy things, and some of it is condemning those heavy situations and redeeming them, and some of it is just making it that these things happen. And so, anyway, I don't know what this anime is going to be like. It may be real. It may be like way gritty. It may be kind of gross. It might be perverted. I don't know, but what I do know is that like what I saw, I thought was like intriguing enough to want to give a couple episodes to it because it looked like it was going to be a pretty, at least stylistically, it was going to be a really cool watch. Plus, I mean, I'm a sucker for isekai, so um, and as we said, I picked two romances essentially and an isekai, and because outside of the sequels, that's essentially what you have to pick this season is it's
Yeah.
just a whole bunch of romances and a whole bunch of isekais, and they all kind of run together to a certain extent. And so I tried to pick the ones that I felt like kind of stood out a little bit, that I thought would be worth a gander. So those are the ones I'm going to give a few episodes to at the beginning. Um,
Is there any final comments you have as we wrap it up, or?
Hey, thanks for sticking with us. It looks like on the timer we're like a little over an hour. So, this is why I don't talk all the time. So, because these podcasts would go forever. So, we are at Christchurch in Effingham, and they were kind enough to let us hang out in their podcast area and do this today. So, I know personally I'm real thankful for Christchurch here in Effingham.
Yeah.
So, it's awesome that they're allowing us to do this. So, other than that, just thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I'd be happy to come back again at some point and talk about anime. So it's one of those things that I really enjoy watching, and I can binge here for a while about it. So
Yeah, I definitely greatly appreciate the support from you and Christchurch in my madness of talking about Christian lessons that are paralleled in different types of media. Uh, Thank you for embracing that with me today. Um, in the description to this video, or if you're watching this on TikTok, it will be in the comments. The link to Christchurch's website. If you feel compelled to do online giving, like a one time gift, just to thank them for them allowing us to borrow their podcast recording space, as well as a link to the First Christian Church of Neoga's website. Um, do you guys have online give options?
yeah, we do. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think I would like to just I mean you can give where you want to give, where God compels you to give. But honestly, um, Christchurch is the ones that are kind of housing us. So if all the gifts go here, I'm cool with that. So,
Yeah. Also, I hope this was an encouraging video to you. and helps you to and inspires you to think of ways and seek out ways that you can worship God through the media that you enjoy. And with that being said, may God be with you and see you next time. Bye.